Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, the world has given us a new lens to understand and move forward. Especially when it comes to the blue economy, our whole outlook needs to change. And one great example is, of course, Seychelles. Speaking about how they've been able to turn it around, the blue economy allows the countries like Seychelles to put oceans at the center of their finances. They're no longer a small island economy, but they're a large ocean state. And that's how the perspective needs to change. What all does it need to get there is what our next speaker will be focused on. Ladies and gentlemen, he is, of course, the executive chairman of James Michel Foundation, focusing more on the Blue Economy Development Program of Seychelles. Please welcome Mr. Michel James.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like first of all to introduce myself. I am the former President of the Republic of Seychelles. I served my country as President for 12 years and retired in 2016. Subsequently, I set up my foundation, of which I am the Executive Chairman. I am a world advocate of sustainable blue economy. Every breath you take, every drop you sip, and most probably the communications infrastructure delivering my voice and picture to you today have to do with the ocean. We are gathered here today because of these masses of water, the very element at the origin of life and which distinguishes our planet from others in the solar system. Yes, we have water in abundance. In fact, 72% of our planet's surface is covered with it, providing a vast array of biodiversity and ecosystem services, regulating our climate, and producing half the oxygen we breathe. Despite the fundamental importance of sustaining life, the full potential of the ocean is yet to be unleashed. The blue economy is the approach that will help attain this objective. But what exactly do we mean by the blue economy? A concept that is very often misunderstood. To me, simply put, it is developing strategies for the sustainable use of the sea that will benefit humankind. The key word here is sustainability, an aspect that has been widely disregarded in the past. The blue economy has brought about greater awareness of ocean capacity, knowledge, and the role it plays in the climate change. Politicians have been made to realize the impacts of climate change with a sense of urgency. Blue economy is partly about high economic potential, but very importantly, it is also in need of decarbonization. It impacts directly on greenhouse emissions, which cause global warming and climate change. Being a pioneer of the blue economy, I am very encouraged to see more countries adopting ocean conservation, sustainable and inclusive blue economic development that directly benefits local communities, improves respective livelihoods, while conserving and sustainably managing marine ecosystems. I commend the World Bank's initiative with Pakistan to that effect, and I congratulate Pakistan for its new sets of policies for the creation of a blue economy. I believe these are bold steps that will benefit present and future generations. In my address today, I will share my experience of creating the blue economy we want. That is one which strikes the right balance between human needs and human rights, or, as we may say, a planet in balance. I will explore the opportunities and challenges through experiences drawn from my own country, with a particular emphasis on ocean regeneration. Advancing the blue economy. Ladies and gentlemen, the ocean is an economic powerhouse in waiting. I have always viewed the ocean as the next economic frontier. So turning to the 1.3 million square kilometers of exclusive economic zone for possible solutions to Seychelles' economic ills back in 2010 was not a difficult choice to make. Embracing sustainable blue economy requires strong political will and leadership supported by the right structures, policy framework, and stakeholder buy-ins. When I launched the blue economy concept, convincing even my cabinet of ministers was not that straightforward. Convincing our other world leaders was even more difficult. But of course, I persevered. Domestically, we developed the Seychelles Blue Economy, strategic policy framework and roadmap. The latter articulates the Seychelles Blue Economy brand, its unique competitive advantage based on its geographical location, its sustainability credentials, and its strength as a nation. It proposes an integrated and prioritized agenda for action, casting a blue lens on sustainable development, defining blue strategic priorities for investment in line with the International Development Agenda 2030, and proposing actions to inform national development. Any economic blue economy benefit will be short-lived without healthy oceans, with flourishing marine and coastal ecosystems. Oceans absorb some 23% of human-caused carbon dioxide emissions and more than 90% of the excess heat created by human-caused greenhouse gases. As such, it helps regulate our climate and fight global warming. My country, the Seychelles, has a long tradition of preserving and protecting the environment. We have done well in that area. As an island nation, we are too aware of the negative consequences of not doing so on tourism and fisheries, which are the main pillars of our economy, and on us, of course, as inhabitants of these islands. In 2010, as president, I made a commitment to declare over 50% of our terrestrial area under biodiversity conservation. By the time I took my retirement in 2016, a little over 47% of areas had already been gazetted. Looking at the ocean and considering its huge potentials for economic growth, I committed 30% of the country's marine territory to biodiversity conservation. This represents more than 400,000 square kilometers, 15% of which are high biodiversity areas or no-take zones through the Seychelles Special Marine Plan initiative, a process facilitated by the Nature Conservancy. Meaningful marine protected areas helps in promoting regenerative practices and sustainable use of natural resources that benefit local livelihoods. It allows for healthier ecosystems and species that are more resilient and better able to withstand and recover from the impacts of climate change. More protection to habitats like mangroves, seagrass meadows, marshes that are important carbon sinks. They are also safe havens for threatened species like whales, sharks, stingrays, and turtles. The estimated economic benefit of protecting 30% of the ocean will be between 490 to 920 billion US dollars by 2050. and would create 150,000 to 180,000 full-time jobs the world over. I am glad that Seychelles achieved the 30% ocean conservation target back in 2020, well ahead of the 2030 goal established by the United Nations. That is to say that the process was without, in fact, that was not to say that the process was without its challenges. Far from it, but the Seychelles adopted a multi-sectoral approach with inputs from major sectors, including commercial fishing, tourism, and marine charters, biodiversity conservation, renewable energy, amongst others, stakeholders from the public and private sectors, non-governmental organizations, interest groups, local communities, and the media were all involved. Protection is a step in the right direction, but the world also needs to take collaborative action to clean up and heal the oceans now. After years of using them as the world's dustbin, the pulse of our ocean's heart is very poor. Pollution is widespread and continues unabated in many parts of the world. Organic pollutants, radioactive substances, heavy metals, pharmaceutical waste, along with marine litter in the form of plastics and microplastics being the main culprits. This is disheartening, and is that most pollution are human-induced and land-based. We therefore need a ridge-to-reef approach in combating ocean pollution. Other challenges remain on the high seas, which are beyond national jurisdiction. The lack of ownership and the complexity and inconsistencies of ocean governance frameworks leaves them vulnerable to several forms of detrimental activities, like large-scale, unregulated, and unreported fishing, and as well as deep-sea mining, etc., etc. Dear delegates, the impacts of climate change remain the biggest threat to the blue economy we want. Coastal development, supporting the livelihood and sustenance of millions of people, is under increasing risks from coastal flooding and extreme weather events. These have the potential of bringing about destructions to infrastructures, disruptions and delays, resulting in important trade-related repercussions, which may compromise the sustainable development prospects of vulnerable coastal populations. For example, coastal flooding has become a frequent occurrence in many island nations and coastal zones across the globe. And this causes salinification of aquifers, contaminating potable water sources, and also arable land, resulting in poor or no agricultural yields in some places. Coral bleaching, with the added effects of ocean acidification and sedimentation, are also affecting marine ecosystems, like, for example, coral reefs and mangroves. And these kill and displace species. With increased adverse weather events, the windows of opportunity for fisheries, tourism, and other ocean-related businesses are becoming less, severely affecting livelihoods. I am sure that the populations along your 1,050 kilometers coastline can to some extent relate to this. Ladies and gentlemen, World Oceans Day today presents an ideal opportunity to raise awareness and educate populations, particularly coastal communities, about the importance of the ocean in their lives and the actions they can take as individuals that will make a big difference for the ocean. Every single step counts. The complex structures and culture change initiatives to address the lack of knowledge and understanding of, as well as connecting to the ocean, can follow. We need to come to the realization that the ocean is not too big to fail if we don't act now. Let us look now at the financing model. Financing nature conservation, mitigation, and adaptation measures to climate change are very costly and are often given less considerations because of what is seen as no return on investment. But this is a very narrow way of looking at it. On the contrary, investing in nature protection brings long-lasting benefits to the country, especially coastal populations, as it offers some level of protection and reduces high cost of reconstruction, medical expenses related to diseases, outbreaks, to name but a few. At the outset, Seychelles had no money to fund its ambitious blue economy agenda. Financing mechanisms had to be put in place, and that's when we came up with the innovative debt swap initiative. We also have a revolving Blue Grants Fund and the Blue Endowment, which ensures a sustainable flow of financing to support the long-term management of Seychelles' network of MPAs, sustainable fisheries, and other activities that contribute to conservation, protection, and maintenance of biodiversity and adaptation to climate change. The debt swap led to the Seychelles Blue Bond, which became a model for the world. It is an innovative structure as well. Looking at the future, there is a need for more innovative finance models for the development of a regenerative blue economy for the benefit of local communities and to attract foreign investment in sustainable development as a whole. Yes, financing the blue economy is a huge challenge, but as demonstrated by the Seychelles model, it is not an insurmountable one. There are also other innovative approaches to regenerative blue economies emerging. For example, the Great Blue Wall Initiative, which connects some 10 African countries and intends to develop a regional blue entrepreneurship strategy that will support local entrepreneurs, open new business opportunities, accelerate the creations of millions of blue jobs, and enable the blue economy to deliver on its full potential to the benefit of people and nature. It intends to catalyze funding towards target seascapes and conservation restoration sites from both public and private actors, and will place at its core the need to achieve financial sustainability and bankability in order to unlock the potential flow of commercial funding towards the development of a regenerative blue economy. For example, an economy that goes a step further than sustainability and that in itself becomes a locomotive in the race towards achieving a nature positive shared ocean by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, I have given you a brief overview of my country's journey towards creating a sustainable blue economy. My takeaway message is that a regenerative blue economy is achievable with political will and leadership. The right policies, education of our peoples, and stakeholders buy-in, new and innovative funding models need to be explored, and communities empowered to access the usually complex financial mechanisms. Above all, the oceans should be allowed to regenerate naturally through sustainable exploitation practices and large-scale marine protected areas. Considering the long coastal region of Pakistan, its geographical advantage and important access routes to trade and oil supply from the Gulf, I see immense potentials for the development of a successful regenerative blue economy. And in ending, I would like to wish you all a happy World Oceans Day, as well as fruitful deliberations at this meeting. I thank you.